3 clamp with a loop of dental floss. Typically this is what people do, they loop around the bow. But a safer way to do this is to take the dental floss and thread it through one of the holes in the jaw. And after getting it through the hole, pulling it so it's about halfway in length, pulled out through that hole. And then we're going to go ahead at this point and we're going to secure this by wrapping this 3 times around the bow. And after wrapping it 3 times, we'll take the other end of the dental floss and put it through the other hole. So you can see with this method that the entire clamp has been secured. So even if it fractures at any place along the back of that bow, we're still going to be able to grab hold of that clamp piece and pull it out of the patient's mouth without having them aspirate or swallow it. We're going to isolate today from tooth number 18 to tooth number 24. So this is a 7, right? This is the second molar. And we like to rotate the clamp from the lingual to the facial and get 4 points of contact to make sure that the clamp is stable, it's below the height of contour, and it's got adequate tension. The holes that we marked for this particular case were done in the previous video, and I'm just going to go ahead and put the universal numbering system on these so that we know which hole goes where. I don't do this in the patient's mouth, but I think it's just good for the video today. And I'm going to punch the holes with the Ainsworth rotating punch and use the largest hole for the rubber dam clamp, also known as the rubber dam retainer. I'm then going to step it down 1 size for the molar. I usually like that second hole for most of my molars. And then we're going to rotate again to the 3rd hole, and this will be great for the premolars and for the canine. And then one more rotation to the second smallest hole will be utilized for the incisors. The key is that you try to match the diameter of the tooth to the hole size, relatively speaking, from small holes to large holes as we're going posteriorly. I'm going to flip the rubber dam over, and now I'm going to express some of this brushless shave soap over the surface. This is probably too much. We don't need very much. This is just to serve as a lubricant, and it's much better than Vaseline, saliva, or local anesthetic. It's water soluble and it can be easily rinsed out from underneath the rubber dam. Patients never complain about the taste of this product. I'm going to grab the rubber dam and use my index fingers to push the rubber dam over the back of the bow of the clamp. Now, another technique, of course, would be to apply the rubber dam and the clamp simultaneously, which definitely has some advantages. The disadvantage, though, of that particular technique is it's sometimes difficult to get the clamp in exactly the right position without having it impinge on tissue. So now we've got the rubber dam started on the distal, and we're going to go back to the anterior tooth, and we're going to slide the rubber dam between the anterior tooth and the second tooth. Notice how I'm stretching the rubber dam. I'm securing it on the lingual, and I'm pulling the rubber dam facially, which gets the rubber dam very, very thin and allows it to go between the teeth. Rarely do I need to use dental floss to get the rubber dam between the teeth with this particular technique. So one edge, pulling from the lingual and pulling from the facial. Kind of works to almost orthodontically separate the teeth to allow the rubber dam to seat between. Once we have the rubber dam between the contacts, we can then go back to the first tooth, the central incisor, and use your fingernail with your glove on, of course, and that's going to allow you to get a little bit of separation so you can get that area started as well. When I'm placing rubber dam in my patients, I give myself about 1 to 2 minutes to finish the entire rubber dam application. You can see here how we have a little bit of rubber dam that's covering over the jaw of the clamp. This is going to lead to leakage. So we've got to get this underneath. So I like using a rounded instrument like a ball burnisher rather than an explorer or a beaver tail, because this can be used very easily in the mouth and it doesn't tear the rubber dam. You'll also notice that you have not covered over the third molar, or the 8. And we can try to use this instrument to get it up underneath, but sometimes it's difficult to do. An alternative technique is just to pick the rubber dam clamp off the tooth, grab it with the forceps, pull it away, and then watch the rubber dam flip over. And now we can secure this, sometimes with a little help from the assistant, and then we can reposition the clamp over the area. Now sometimes when you do this, you're going to put the clamp on top of the rubber dam, and then this is not good because you're not going to have a very secure rubber dam clamp. So it takes a little bit of effort, perhaps at first, but you can get this clamp to engage the tooth structure. And once you've got it so it's fully secured on tooth, we know we're good to go. Let's take a look at this application from the side and see how we did. Not bad there on the facial, but on the lingual you can see how the rubber dam is bunched up around the jaws of the lingual. So let's hold the rubber dam down, reposition it above the clamp above the rubber dam, and then try it again. Not bad. A little bit of pitch still there. So we're going to have to just play with this just a little bit longer. I'm doing this by myself in my laboratory, and it's a lot easier when you have an assistant helping you to hold the rubber dam down on one side while you place it on the other. If you're working by yourself, it may take a little longer, but it's definitely doable. When you look at this from the facial, you can see mission not accomplished. We have not gotten the clamp jaws below. So one more time, we're going to get this seated in here properly. Okay, let's take a look at this and see how we did. That looks pretty good. Key is to get the 4 points of the jaws to engaging tooth structure and not rubber dam. Now that the dental floss has done its job, basically protect the patient from aspiration, we can cut it off and remove it. Very easy to do with some scissors. And then we can inspect the rubber dam and see where we need to do some further inverting. And I'm going to suggest that rather than using a beaver tail burnisher or some other type of instrument to try to invert the rubber dam, pick up a piece of dental floss. The dental floss can be used very effectively to invert the rubber dam. I know some people like to use the dental floss also to tie around the individual teeth, and I find that to be unnecessary, because if we use the dental floss in this manner, we can invert the rubber dam into the sulcus and it stays put throughout the procedure. It's really helpful if your assistant can be, after rinsing off any lubricant, can be keeping the area really dry. This little triangle, we refer to this as a bow tie, can be inserted between the last two teeth or isolate facially and secure that area. And now we can use the Explorer to invert the rubber dam in the other areas. Looks like this was almost nicely inverted by itself just by using the dental floss. I'm going to go ahead and do this on the facial in super slow motion. I want you to see the activity of the Explorer. How I rotate the Explorer towards the tooth as we slide distally. That particular move usually does a really good job of inverting the rubber dam. Now that the rubber dam is inverted, we can inspect it, make sure that there are no leaks anywhere. We're ready to begin the procedure. Like I said, this takes more than 2 minutes. I'm doing something wrong. Clamps that are available. These are all my basic wingless clamp set. And let me go through each one of these. The first one on the far left, this is called a W4. And this would be used for all molars, whether they're maxillary or mandibular. It's the largest of the series. And you notice that the wings are flat. They don't festoon towards the root surface at all. The next size would be the W3, also very effective for molars. And if you wanted to just pick one of the two, I think the W3 would be the one I would choose for all molars. Then I've got a couple of other smaller sizes. The first one here is the W2. The W means wingless. There are no wings on these. And this is great for premolars or maybe large canines. And then finally, I've got this little W00, which is a wingless 00, and it's great for anterior teeth. So that's the set of the basic wingless. Now here are the winged clamps, and I've got two here. One is a number 0 and one is a number 1. And these have wings which help to stabilize the rubber dam from riding up along the side of the tooth. And also some operators choose to place the clamp in the hole and place the clamp and the rubber dam simultaneously. I don't actually like to do it that way. Typically, I like to place the clamp first and then place the rubber dam on top of that. Then finally I have here is the 27. This is a winged distal extension access clamp that I would place after the rubber dam is in place. And sometimes it requires you to swap out the distal clamp with this particular clamp, but it's a fantastic clamp and we'll show you how to use that. This is a clamp that I don't use very often. It's an 8A, and I don't like it because it's very aggressive, and the patient will need to be anesthetized on both the facial and lingual side. If you're doing a maxillary isolation, this requires a lingual injection. So these are rarely used. Of course, you all know by this time that my favorite rubber dam is Nictone. And Nictone has 3 colors. They make a black, they make a green, and a blue. I just like the black and the blue personally because I think they photograph really well. But that's just my personal preference. So they're all 6 by 6 inches. They also make a 5 by 5, and they make them in various weights: lightweight, medium weight, heavy weight. I like the medium weight. It seems to work well for most procedures. Let's take a look at another little tip I have, and that's to use brushless shave soap, and this is from Barbasol. I put a little 10cc Monoject syringe so I can dispense this on the underside of the rubber dam when we're placing it. This is an Ainsworth 5-hole punch. I don't think we need a 6-hole punch. I like the Ainsworth because it has a good design, it's very sturdy, and the 5 holes satisfy virtually all of our needs for punching holes. You want to make sure that the platen, that is that circular area below, is going to be rotated so it goes into a solid click position, because if you try to punch when it's not in its proper position, you'll damage the side of the hole, and then you'll end up having holes that don't punch very clean. When it comes to forceps, this is the Stokes style rubber dam forceps, and it's got these little balls on the end like this, and I think that it's a decent rubber dam forceps, but I need to modify it because those internal corners are going to grab hold of the clamp when we're trying to release it. So I like to make this particular modification so I can get the clamp out easily. The 4 requirements for a secure and comfortable clamp are 4 points of contact. You need to place it apical to the height of contour. It needs to have adequate tension, and it needs to have flat wings. The flat wings don't hurt the patient's tissues. And you can see in this particular case where I'm using a W2, it satisfies all of those requirements. Let's take a look at a few more clamps and see how they look. And the next one I would use would be this W3 here, and you can see that we insert that on the lingual first, getting the lingual to engage, and then rotate towards the facial. And lingual first, rotate towards the facial, make sure we're not pinching the tissue, and that the clamp is apical to the height of contour, 4 points of contact, adequate tension, and of course it has those flat wings that aren't going to festoon apically, causing a lot of discomfort and potential damage to the tissue. You know, if you're taking a board exam and your rubber dam clamp damages the tissue, that could be a deduction in points, and you want to be very careful about that. Here's a 27 clamp, and we're going to be placing that on the first molar, and you can see how you can piggyback the clamps. Piggybacking the clamps simply means you can put one clamp next to another clamp and they fit perfectly. Why would you do this? Well, that second clamp will retract the rubber dam further and allow you to gain significant access to the operation field. And then finally, I'm going to use this little double zero here